A big thank you to Jero for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Tiamat versus Hamza, Marchesa and Rokiric. Pretty good hand, definitely keep that one. Alright, more ramp in a 3 visits. Hamza playing an A-Not guide, putting a plus counter on itself, I imagine. No, they actually search for a basic here, so we know that they have a forest in hand. We draw into the Great Henge, so yeah, as long as we don't have to discard our hand or don't get messed with too much or anything, we are looking pretty good this game. Talisman of Dominance from the Marchesa player, and after that they go for Blade of the Blood Chief. Alright, hopefully top deck a land here. Well, at least we can make one with the 3 visits. That is a Draconic Intervention. The first commander of the game is Rokiric. Mystic Remora from Marchesa only has 4 cards in hand. Noteworthy that there is an Urborg in play, so we've all got black mana. And then playing Yeheni, Undying Partisan, which is a vampire. A Blade of the Blood Chief is going to care about vampires as well. I wouldn't have thought that they would make a vampire tribal list, but can't rule it out. I mean, this will put plus counters on itself as well, so much more likely they've gone for the typical plus counter theme. Speaking of plus counters, Basri's Lieutenant entering play and puts a plus counter on the A-Not guide. Alright, a Dragon's Horde. I think we go for making 2 mana as opposed to 1. We'll go for the Hunting Wilds. And that sets us up also for the Draconic Interventions, so we can blow up a bunch of stuff for 4 damage in total by exiling the Hunting Wilds. Anyway, play that out, probably just get some Triomes here. Mystic Remora going to trigger, we obviously can't pay for that, so Marchesa drawing cards. A Crow and Hoplite now. That will get plus X to its power, where X is the number of attacking creatures you control. That triggers when it attacks. And of course triggers the commander, so brings in a 4/4. And then we see the new commander Baird enter play as well. So they're going to get a white soldier token. So yeah, this thing will enable the Baird. And swinging in at us because we are the dragon player, so 3 commander damage. Paying into the Mystic Remora, keeping that in play at the beginning of the turn. Now Marchesa, throwing down a Spell Seeker, can go for an instant or sorcery, mana value 2 or less. And they put a Vampiric Shooter in their hand. They have held up a black mana, so they can play that probably at the end of this player's turn. We could mess that up with a Time Twister if we wanted to, shuffle everything around, but I don't really feel the need to go for Time Twister at the moment. Scavenging Ooze into play. Okay, there is a Mana Reflection. I wonder if we should go for Savage Ventmaw to get the Summoning Sickness away from that, and then we can use the mana to go for Mana Reflection probably, and then get down Chromatic Orrery and just ramp out like crazy next turn. Yeah, let's play out the Savage Ventmaw. Outlaw's Merriment, even more token production for the Boros player. Obviously not paying into the Mystic Remora. They get another Golem token. Now we get the 2 Golem tokens swinging in towards us. That's all we get thanks to having the Savage Ventmaw in play. Vamp Tutor from the Marchesa, we knew that was coming. Once again, Mystic Remora being paid into, so only 3, maybe 4 mana available to Marchesa here. And then playing out Carder. Luckily we were looking to attack him with our creatures anyway, so I think we really need to look at wiping the board soon, especially seeing as how the Boros player is going to keep swinging in at us apparently. There is a Field of Ruin in play over here for the Hamza player, and we see a plus counters Planeswalker, Ajani the Great-Hearted. Once again, Mystic Remora drawing another card. Minusing that down, so a plus counter on each of their creatures here. That does take them out of range of this getting blown up by the Draconic Intervention, because we're only going to do 4 damage to everything. Not too worried about Hamza at the moment though. Okay, and the 4/5 swings in at the Boros player. We get the 3/3 and the 3/3 Scavenging Ooze. Are we just going to have to take 6 damage here in case they've got 1 mana and 4 cards available? They can't. Yeah, they can't give this +1 by exiling a creature. So I'm just going to assume that they've got a means of getting rid of the Savage Ventmaw here. We'll have to take the 6. So everyone else is pretty much at 40. We are at 23. Now let's see if we can land ourselves a Mana Reflection. We'll swing in with the Savage Ventmaw first of all. Even more mana. So we're getting all the mana and none of the dragons. Luckily we can fetch those out with our commander. So I'm going to swing in at the Boros player with the Savage Ventmaw. And we don't have to connect with that, we just have to swing in, so we do get the 6 mana. Alright, so land the damage, get through to the second main, definitely Windmill Slam the Mana Reflection here. Mystic Remora going to do some work this turn, unfortunately. But the Boros player is having us play into the Marchesa player's hand because we're being forced to wipe the board, and that buys even more time for the Grixis player. If we can land the Chromatic Orrery, it doesn't matter which lands we tap down here because we're going to be able to use any type of mana. And thanks to the mana doubler, we're actually going to gain mana here. This costs 7, but it's going to tap for 10. Once again, not paying for the Mystic Remora. So we make 10 mana there. Let's play out the Dragon's Horde. With Dragon's Horde, we tap that for 2 mana. We can also remove a gold counter from it for a tap, and we'll draw a card with that. Okay, and the Marchesa player deciding to scoop. Yeah, not saying anything, just says he has to go. Pretty annoying. So we'll play the Great Henge, and that will tap down for 4 mana. Play the Urza's Incubator, naming dragons, so our dragons will cost 2 generic less to cast. And then we can actually go for Tiamat here before we go for that Draconic Intervention. So Tiamat enters, we'll put the card draw effects on the stack first, and then allow Tiamat to fetch out some specific cards. So we'll grab ourselves a Terror of the Peaks. We can get some card draw with 2-headed Hellkite. Might as well get Bladewing the Arisen because our opponents might want to wipe the board here. Some card draw in Ancient Silver Dragon. And let's go for Dragon Lord Kolaghan. That is going to give our stuff haste. And then drawing into a card with the Great Henge, that is Teferi's Protection, which we're not going to be able to hold up, unfortunately. Or I suppose we can hold it up and then go off next turn. Yeah, I don't suppose we have to wipe the board here, do we? Holding up Teferi's Protection is a more intelligent play, so yeah, we'll do that. Let's get rid of Time Twister. I'm not looking to refill my opponent's hands. Discard that to hand size. 1 damage to any target, the Boros player continuing to target us for obvious reasons. We're going to have a hell of a lot of mana next turn. It's a 1-2 that they got from the enchantment, by the way, pinging us. So a Crow and Hoplite, I dare say they're just turning everything in sideways towards us, yep. So here is the Teferi's Protection for them. No blue players left at the table, so yeah, maybe wishing that the Marchesa player had stayed in play, maybe could have done something about that. Not going to take any damage here. They will get a soldier token at the end of the turn thanks to the Baird, and this thing getting buffed went up to an 8-2. Thawing Glaciers into play. Tapping down the Thawing Glaciers, and got another land into play with that. And then casting a Bygone Bishop. They do get the soldier token from the Baird, like I said. Everything is still being told that it has to attack each combat if able, even though that demon has gone down from the Marchesa player, so I assume that's a Magic Online bug. Could affect the outcome of this game though. Juniper Order Ranger in from Hamza. Minusing down on the Ajani again, so everything getting plus counters on it. And they were trying to pass the turn there, but may find out that they're being forced to attack each turn, thanks to the Grixis player's early scoop and the Magic Online bug. So tapping out, turning everything in sideways, they won't lose a creature here at least. And they do still have Vigilance thanks to the Basri's Lieutenant. So the fact that they didn't want to swing in there is very telling. It's a case of these two wanting to gang up on us by the looks of it, which does make total sense. They go down to 19, not wanting to block even with a soldier token. So we phase back in, and get into a land is good. So do we even need to use the Draconic Intervention here? I suppose we could use it and then use the damage from Terror of the Peaks to point at our opponent's faces. Might be able to win this turn. So tap this thing down for 10 mana. We'll go for the Draconic Intervention now. Exile the 4 mana Hunting Ground, so that will deal 4 damage to everything, wipes everything apart from the Basri's Lieutenant and the Juniper Order Ranger. Then we'll throw down Terror of the Peaks. And we've only tapped down 1 mana rock so far. Another counter goes on the Dragon's Horde. We draw a card from the Great Henge. Also puts a plus counter on it. More haste in Lightning Greaves, which hopefully we're not going to need. Play out the 2-headed Hellkite here. So we'll put Terror of the Peaks on the stack before the Great Henge. I think it will change the value on the stack when a plus counter has been put on there. Maybe not though. Go after the Boros player. Should be able to get rid of the Boros player with Terror of the Peaks. Draw into a Felwar Stone, which is free mana, so drop the Felwar Stone. Tap that down for mana straight away. The Orrery doing a lot of work for us here. Throw down Dragon Lord Coligan as well. Give all of our stuff haste. So Terror of the Peaks pointed at the Boros player again, and do the same things with the Great Henge and the Dragon's Horde. Draw into Assassin's Trophy. Play out Ancient Silver Dragon. And this should be enough to get rid of the Boros player, who is very admirably playing it out. And I think we're just 1 point away, got rid of the other player at -3. I think we're just 1 point away from getting rid of the other player here, so yeah, we'll get down Scion of Draco. I think we're just 1 point away. Scion of Draco coming down for free. Shoot our opponent with Terror of the Peaks, and that should definitely push enough damage through. Draw into a land, we'll just throw down the Volcanic Island and swing. Still, everything is being forced to attack each turn. I don't think it's had any relevance, thankfully. Draw 2 cards to the two-headed Hellkite. Savage Ventmaw going to trigger, still only makes 6 mana. And we just clear a couple of lands off the top. And again, very admirably, our opponents play it out. So, managing to take our opponent down to -10, we were about to, well, potentially draw a lot of cards off the Ancient Silver Dragon. Could be a lot, could be hardly any. Chances are you're going to draw a lot with this thing though. And let's see if it's going to show us. I would have tapped down the Dragon's Horde most likely as well. Yeah, okay, actually more mana on top than I would have liked there. We had a board wipe, more direct damage in Drakuseth and Scourge of Valkus. So yeah, it's likely that we were going to be dealing with our opponents even if they had a lot more life there. But I thank my opponents for being good sports there and playing it out. And we got to, thanks to them, we got to look at the massive damage that you can deal with Tiamat. A lot of people still really love the Ur Dragon, but I think the 5-colour commander to play dragons with is Tiamat. For reasons that we saw here, being able to cherry pick your dragons and set up your next turn is really, really strong. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed this revisit before the Brothers' War comes into full swing. Please consider donating on Patreon if you do enjoy these videos. Huge thank you to those of you who support already. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.